for the first episode of it being, or of the Unpro Pro rugby show being exclusively a rugby show. I've done the top rugby show. There's a few episodes when I was interviewing all different types of people from all different types of walks of life, and I was still interviewing or podcasting or sitting down with rugby people. But now we're just rugby, baby. I can focus my brain. I got too much shit going on in my brain. I just need to focus. And what a week to start off with. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm wearing the Bokke jersey, the 2019 World Cup jersey we won. Obviously, we are planning to go back to back, baby. And we've started off the right way. That's how you put your mark, put your foot down on international rugby, on everyone who's watching, anyone, any doubters, any haters, whatever it is. You beat the Wallabies 40, what was it? I've even forgotten. 43 points to 12. I mean, that's putting a statement down, there's a lot of chat about it being the B team or anything like that. And I love what Eddie Jones came out and said, because there was a reporter that said, what do you feel like after, I don't know, losing to the Springbok B team? And what Eddie Jones obviously called this journo out and said that it's a Springbok team. There's no B team. It's still a Springbok team. So whoever's on the field, that's the Springbok team for that day. And they're representing South Africa and the Springboks, and what that wrong side, that baby means, the Springbok jersey or the Springbok emblem. So that's kind of what I was thinking with with the podcast now, doing some reviews, previews. I'll also be getting some players on, some coaches, some physios, anything to do with the rugby, in and around rugby. I feel like I'm going to keep it that way. Because like I said, my brain needs to focus. I've definitely got ADHD or anything, something like that. But that's enough about me. We're going to get straight into the Rugby Championship kickoff. The Rugby Championships kicked off this weekend. I had to wake up at, like, the alarm set at 1:45 to get up. And you know how I know I'm built for this? I woke up 2 minutes before my alarm went off. Ready to go. I went to bed in my Bokke jersey and straight up into it. I made a Milo, because coffee at that time, not working. Milo, ready to go. But let's get into it. So 43-12, there's a lot of chat around the Bokke being a B team, and half the squad is already in Auckland, ready for next week's game against the All Blacks. Initially, I first thought that there's a big cop out for me, because then it's like it's an easy excuse for if the Bokke do lose, then it's just the B team again. And I think Rassie has done something similar before. They've played in quotes a B team. And rested guys for another game or something along those lines. And for me, it's just always been a cop-out. But to see how these guys came out and played, I think it just shows the depth that South African rugby has at the moment. I'm a big believer in rugby going through clubs or countries or provinces or teams going through cycles. Like, I think Crusaders is that's the biggest example of that, where a core group of players have gone through this cycle, as you were to say, and they've won, 7 Super Rugby titles back to back. So all those guys that have come through the academy, that have played together, that are from the same age groups, that have played age group rugby together, whether that be All Blacks under 20s or for the academies or for the schools team or in the sevens setup, and then they come through those ranks, and it definitely shows, because as we all know, rugby is a team sport, and you have those connections, the camaraderie, those intangible things that playing with mates for a long time builds. It's stuff you almost can't coach. And I think the timing of this now with the Springbok team is just perfect. There's 3 or 4 players per position that can play, that can walk into a starting lineup in most countries, for most countries. So and that's good to have. We're very fortunate to have that. But I think this weekend around that chat of the South African team or fielding a B team versus the Wallabies, it's just a true indication for me of the depth that South Africa do have at the moment. I'm gonna get straight into it. So we'll start. Do I start with the Wallabies? We're on the Bokke. We'll start with the Bokke. The line speed in the first half or the first 10 meters throughout the game, but in that first, just the intensity of that first is insane for me, right? Getting smack in Wallabies' faces. And it just shows the intensity that these guys had. We've always known South Africa to be a very physical, big rugby side. But to see how mobile these guys are as well, big guys getting up off the line into their faces, that it just showed that the Wallabies didn't. I mean, they were flustered most of the time on attack, and it showed right from the start. Strong defense, catching the Wallaby guys behind the advantage line. And then you've got guys like that Marco van Staden. It's just on the ball as well, that you've got big guys tackling. Peter Steph du Toit taking these guys back behind the advantage line, and you have someone like Marco van Staden that's straight onto the ball. And I think he got an early steal as well. And I think it was later on, it would have been like 50 minutes into the game. You've got guys like Steven Kitsoff that he's had about 20 scrums already, made 100 tackles, and he's still stealing balls at ruck time. It's immense. I think that's been the biggest change that I've seen with the Springboks, and I'm also only going off this one game, is that yes, we've always known the Springboks to be massive and physical, but how mobile the forwards have been, or in this game at least, crazy. Also, the big testament to the province's way of playing, the different clubs, or big testament maybe to the fact that South African rugby is now playing in Europe. It's a low injury, low. I wouldn't say risk, but just low risk for error. And I mean, no one wants to make errors, but just goes so clinical. And I'm just talking on defense here now. Very clinical early. You have then going into the back line with someone like Willie Leroux is just calling the shots from the back. It's especially to help Marnie Libbok in that game, where it was Marnie's first start. He's played off the bench before, but it was his first start, and there was a lot of chat around that people were a bit worried with how he was going to react to it, because he didn't have the best URC final. And to have an old head in Willie Leroux, who's got 83 caps for the Springboks, or 85. And I think he was doing what it looked like, at least, that he was doing most of the chat around that. And I think someone on Twitter, the rugby analyst, put up a little clip of the last time they played together for the Springboks versus Italy, Willie and Marnie. And just the interplay where one isn't there, the other one jumps in at 10. And if Willie isn't there, Marnie jumps in at 10, then the other one is jumping just behind that first pod, the forwards. And if Willie's chat on the field is so underrated, I feel like. for most people just watching, it'd be like, oh, he talks a lot to the ref. He's always got his hands up and shouting this and that. And a few times he said a few Afrikaans words on the field, but I think his chat, and then to back it up, his left foot is so underrated. To have a right foot in Manie Libbok and a left foot in Willie on a field just opens up both sides of the field. It's so hard for then a defense to read, because you'll be looking after the right foot, which then kicks to your open side. So if you're right-footed, you'll kick to the right side open. If a ruck is kind of on your left side, you'll want to kick open and not back towards the ruck. It's very hard with charge downs. And then to have a left-footed kicker as well, where you can throw the there's an option to throw the ball behind the two centers, and you have a clearing kick out to the open side just for a left foot. It's just for a defense, thinking from a defensive side, it's so hard to read that. So you don't, because Willie's also then smart in, it might just be a little kick or a longer flat kick or an attacking kick or a little grubber, or then he might throw a skip pass, which is another great aspect of his game, or is that his left to right and his right to left pass is just fantastic. That's one thing I did say as well, was that the more they just need to get the ball in Willie's hands. Every time he gets the ball in his hands, something is happening. Yes, it's not always gonna. This is another thing where a lot of people will pick up on his errors, but if you just go off on the fact of the more you get the ball in hand, the how can I phrase it? The more you get the ball in hand, yes, the more touches you're gonna have, but the more things that can go wrong, but the more things can go right as well. Just by the amount of times you're getting touches on the ball. I hope that makes sense. What is it's a gambling term. Anyway, that's beyond me now. Another thing I think the Springboks did well, and then there was stats on it actually. Let me get those up. Was I think the Aussies, I think Wallabies were definitely looking for them to kick, or expecting them to kick more, where South Africa in the game had 26 kicks, where the Wallabies had 30. So I think they were, with their back, especially the Wallabies back three, were setting up a lot further back, expecting the ball to be kicked a lot more. And the Springboks didn't, especially from mauls. They normally might do a box kick, or then drive it, which you expect from a big pack. And one of the first try, I think it was Kurt Lawrence's second try, was the play or the variation off the maul, where the Marco van Staden come blind to Bongi and Bongi played Kurt Lee down the side. Then he's gone down there, and I think there's one thing that Wallabies weren't expecting was the Springboks to be playing different plays off the maul and not just mauling, which they did once, and I think they got held up at one stage. So that was good. They played. There was a few variations off the maul. I'm pretty sure Dwayne Vermeulen came wrapping around a maul at once, and think quickly. You're the fly off, or whoever's defending there, and Thor comes charging down. You don't think about that for a second, because that's just pretty sure he took 3 or 4 guys with him, and that was kind of the box forwards definitely set the tone. I said before the game that it's going to be a big game for both 10, so Manie and Quaid. And a 10 is only as good as the forward pack is. If your forward pack's going backwards, it is a struggle for the 10. It's the longest day. It is Stoke away on a Wednesday night, cold, raining. That's what it feels like. But if your forward pack are going forward and hitting the advantage line, or even on defense making tackles, it makes 10's job so much easier. And this is what made Manie Libbok's game on Saturday so much easier, because every time the Springboks carried, it was over the advantage line or hitting weak shoulders or getting through and getting maybe a little offload. But if they weren't getting through, then the cleaner was just so effective as well at ruck time. Guys just blowing them out the park. Stephen Kitzel, France Malaba, those guys doing the dirty work, the donkey work, as they say. You need those workhorses, man. Peter Steph the Toy. I saw someone on, obviously Twitter. Don't you take that all with a pinch of salt? But someone saying Peter Steph the Toy had a quiet game. Man, that guy was everywhere, all over the park. Line outs, very effective. Same with John Klein. And then when Marvin Ori as well, those guys, they did 9 out of 9 their line outs. So the line outs were great. But guys just always getting over that advantage line with carrying the ball. So moving on, again, just talk about the mobility of the forwards here, the Springboks. And I think it's got to do with the playing in Europe because it is so forward dominated. They say that, yes, it's set piece dominated, but you've got to make your runs, man. You got to be having involvements and not just one, but backing it up. So you hit the ruck, and then next one you're taking the next carry, or you take a carry and then you're cleaning the next ruck. That's frightening, and that's that last little bit I think that the Springboks needed to take it to that next step. Because that next step for me will always be, at test level, will be the All Blacks. And we'll get into the All Blacks game as well. But I think that's how the Springboks will beat them next week. Very physical on defense as well. Like I said, guys just getting in their faces. Andre Esterhuizen, man, you don't want to be defending his channel. Such a big body. And one thing I think he can add to is just that late little, right at the line, the pass or the little step. But that probably wasn't, he was probably told, just run at whoever is trying to stand in your way. Because that first phase, front foot ball, is so important. When you've got guys like Kurtley Orense, Kanan Moody and Villiers out the back, and you can get them front foot ball, man, these guys are going to walk over for tries. And they did. Some of the tries, Kurtley just walked over. So Esterhuizen definitely did his bit. I want to come back to Marnie, though. I think and there's a bit of chat around Andre Pollard being injured. He is injured. So we don't know how quickly he'll be recovering for the World Cup. And Marnie played well. He did. Like I said, behind a forward pack that's going forward, I'm not taking away from the fact that he played really well on the weekend, kicking well, good options on attack. But if your forward pack is going forward, a fly-off does well. It's simple. It's pretty easy behind a forward pack like that. Again, obviously, I don't know. I'm not playing international rugby, but man, when your forward pack is doing that to the opposition, I could probably play fly-off then for the Bokke. But man, again, I think that if you have to go man of the match, it would be the whole forward pack. When RG Snyman came on as well, El Ergia, very good, very good. And I do think them shifting to the Europe, because most of the guys are playing in Europe as well. If they're not playing in the URC, if they're not playing for South African teams like the Bulls or the Sharks, they're playing for Munsters and Sale Sharks and et cetera, in Europe. And because Europe has been such a big catchment for so many other players, I think it just lifts what's the saying as tide raises all boats. I don't know. I think that's it. But You get what I'm saying? Better quality players come into a comp, it lifts the whole comp. And you can see that's what's been happening with the French top league. And then it trickles on to the French team. The French under-20s are doing great. The French senior squad are just on their own level at the moment as well. So it's definitely having a trickle-on effect. I think that was it for the Bokke. Very impressed. First up, very impressed. If that is, in quotation marks, a weaker Bokke team or the second choice Bokke team or whatever, however you want to put it, very impressed. Very impressed with the Bokke's depth. This is what you want leading into a World Cup. This is what you want, 3 or 4 players in each position that can step up in the final and do a job for the Bokke to go back to back, baby. Because that's what's happening. That's why we're here. That's what's happening. Back to back. It's never been done. Has it been done before? Did the All Blacks do it? The All Blacks have done it. Never mind. We're going back to back and then we'll go 3-beat. Let's go. I'm a Bokke. And can we get a shout out to one of the Zulu warriors who did a run out for Impi. Man, did you see the size of this guy? He is jacked. If there's ever a problem, if Sia can't make it, put him in there. Put him in there. Moving on to the Wallabies. Tough night at the office for the Wallabies. I mean, it started off well. I mean, I think they got a turnover from the line out, and always said it, turnover from the line out, you need to change your point of attack or point of contact. So you get a turnover line out on one side of the field, shift the ball. And they did that well. Alatoa popped to Nick White. Nick White threw it straight to Quade Cooper. Quade Cooper skip pass. And then it was just drawn pass, running straight, and Korobete in the corner. Anyone listening to this, if you play for your own club or you play for a team, tell your coach. And if your coach hasn't told you, you tell the team. If you get turnover, change the point of attack, especially on first phase. The guys who also, South Africa would have been attacking there. It was their line out, so their back line is lying nice and deep. Where Aussie were defending off flat. Okay? They get a turnover. South Africa have to adjust from being deep to flat to defend. You're already flat. It's hard to be delaying runs. Your centers and that would be delaying their run to create depth. Skip pass to the space. South Africa's guys were deeper, so the wingers and centers were deeper. That's where the space is. And they did that perfectly. Quade Cooper threw a lovely skip pass. Tom Wright, drawn pass, Korobete in the corner. And I thought, oh shit. That was my first thought was, oh shit, Wallabies have come to play. But I think that was the last of it until they scored. Until Carter Gordon scored in the last minute or in overtime. Which is pretty scary. It just shows how well the Springboks played. Did not have any possession. And when the Wallabies did have possession, very disjointed, very one-out running. Nick White doing a lot of looking around at the base of the ruck or when he's picked up the ball. And it's just a big credit to the Boks because they starved them of possession. When the Boks kicked, they kicked very well. Attacking kicks were met with strong defensive lines. And Aussies just didn't have options. I thought, again, I think the Wallabies did think that they would kick more, so they were going to get more ball, but they didn't. Tom Wright, not sold on him. He does not have a kick. Say what you want about kicking in rugby. It is a very important part of the game, especially if you're a fullback and you're not as fast as Cheslin Colby. You need to be able to kick, and I don't think Tom Wright has that in his skill set. I think he'd be a good winger, where he could maybe fill in Vunivalu's place because he did not have the best game. But who knows? Korobete is your lock-in. I think he's the first one picked before. No, Hooper had a massive game as well, and that will be your. Yeah, I did. So yeah, poor kicks. Wallabies also had a lot of poor kicks when they did decide to kick. I think, and I don't think Eddie Jones is that like say. So I thought he'd be smarter and it probably wasn't their goal to match the Springboks physically, but it did look like it, and it did not work. I don't think it works with anyone, because that's just the Springboks game, is to suffocate you, to run through you, not around you or not in between you, run over you, hurt physically. Just they showed the pre-match. They showed a bit of Bucky's Borta's highlights. It's, just in your face, cleaning guys, head-butting Jimmy Cowan, like, man. And that's what the Springboks are known for. Play, if you're coming up against them, try something else. Don't try their game. The yellow cards and the penalty tries didn't help Wallabies. I don't know much about a maul. So that's Parecki got sent off for that, for bringing down the maul or collapsing a maul before they were potentially going to score. I don't want to say too much about that. But Vunivalu's, yes, heading down, like in league you can do it. So in league you can smack a ball down. You go, instead of intercept, you can just hit the ball down. In union you can't. You have to make and they're even strict on it now. Hands need to be up. You need to be in a good position to catch the ball, and he was not at all. So 2 penalty tries, that's straight 7 points. That's tough. Quade Cooper didn't have many options again. Like I've said with Marnie Libbok, when your forwards are going forward, it's easier, a lot easier. And on the other side of that, if your forwards are going backwards, it's a tough, long day in the office. You'd have no options. You catch the ball and you look outside you, there's 1 or 2 guys that are standing right next to you, or everyone is flat, or there's no one and you have to take the ball up. God forbid a fly-off has to take the ball up, man. Most fly-offs you don't even have to wash the jersey after a game. That might only be me, but yeah, so tough gig for Quade Cooper that was. I thought Carter Gordon played well when he come on. It was also right at the end. I think he got maybe 15, 20 minutes. Come on, had a few good touches, just energetic, as you'd hope for a youngster making his debut. Scored a try right at the end as well. I don't think you can swap them out. Only because I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you play Carter Gordon fullback? I don't think he played much there for Rebels. He's more a 10. So I'm not sure. I think you give Quade Cooper another shot, because I don't think you can blame him for that one. I think you give Quade Cooper another shot. They play Argentina in Sydney, I'm pretty sure, next game. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Quade Cooper will get another shot there, with Carter Gordon potentially getting a lot more minutes. I think again, the kicking becomes a problem, kicking to posts now. Reece Hodge has got a massive boot on him, but it doesn't help. You can kick the ball out of the stadium if you can't kick it between those 2 posts on either side of the field. It's the most important part of a goal kicker, to be able to do that. Just it seems pretty easy. Just kick it in between those 2 posts, but it's hard sometimes. And just to keep the scoreboard ticking over, it's a mental game as well. 3 points here, 3 points there. You missed a few penalties. It's tough. I mean, you're doing all this work and you look at the scoreboard and it's still 0 or it's only 5. When you've had a couple opportunities, it's the going gets tough then. So positives for Wallabies, Carter Gordon, I think, and that they just had some days you just have a shit day at the office. You can't. It's not too early to say that. Oh, Eddie Jones doesn't know what he's doing. We all know Eddie Jones has brought so much hope back into Australian rugby, and we can't go off one game. You've got to give that man his due. But all in all, Springboks looking the goods, man. The absolute goods. I can't fucking wait for Bokke versus All Blacks. It's my son's birthday. We're having his party that day, and it starts at 2 o'clock, and the Bok game is at 5. Mate, you better blow out those candles very soon. We got to watch the Springboks. How good was Loftus? Fully packed. I remember running out. I played one game at Loftus, running out, and I almost got blinded by the blue empty seats. There was more people on the field than in the stands. So seeing them, I think 60,000, the brandy was looping, pal. I had 2 aeroplanes flying over. It was all happening. I don't think the Bokke were going to lose, ever going to lose. Firstly, the guys doing the impi dance, the Zulu warriors, didn't fall. So when they ran out and jumped, they didn't fall. Loftus, full. Brandy, looping. 2 airplanes flew over the stadium. Springboks, you're not losing then, pal. You're not losing then. We're going to jump over to the All Blacks game. Also, again, lovely. And this is why I think league doesn't stand a chance against rugby union. The international rugby union game is so much better. So much better. So much better. There's a lot of, obviously locally in Australia, there's a lot of chat around the rugby, the NRL. Yes, the NRL is good, but you're not international rugby, pal. International rugby is where it's at. It's the goods. It's all happening then. The World Cup is going to be great. Fantastic. All Blacks versus the Los Pumas in Mendoza. Mendoza was packed as well. I don't know what they'd be drinking beers. I don't know if they could. They're hooligans there, man. So I don't know if they'd be drinking beers in the stands. But it was great. The Kapao Panga was the first haka for the year. A lot of shit chat online about the haka as well. Man, the haka and All Black or New Zealand rugby is like bacon and eggs. It's like fish and chips. It's like salt and pepper. It's like, what else there? Knife and fork. If you want the All Blacks rugby, the haka comes with it. Done. If you don't want to watch the haka, don't watch rugby. You don't like the haka, you don't like rugby. I don't even know why I'm having this conversation now. Haka is great. Love the haka. And I'm pretty sure every player, every true rugby fan agrees with me. Just elite, the All Blacks. How good. Like, there's a lot of talk around who should have been the 10, who should be playing here, this guy should be playing there. D-Mac came out and just said, hold on a minute. That number 10 is mine for now. While I'm saying that, Richie Mwanga could probably start against the All Blacks. What do I know? D-Mac had a great game. So 41-12. Big scores. And just when you say clinical, and when I say there's the level of international rugby, that's All Blacks is what I'm talking about. They're at that level. It's just clinical. So patient on attack. Is whenever there's a line break and you can't, and there's a 50-50 ball, go to ground, next person cleans, even if it's the Aaron Smith, he's that first person there, he's securing the ball. And you got Tyrell Lomax, props, Ethan de Groot picking the ball up and throwing 10-meter passes at scrum half. Just those little things there that don't stop that momentum. They can keep rolling on. The next pack's going. The next pod's hitting that line. And it's not just hitting it one off. It's you little jinx step at the line. There's a short offload. There's offloads out the back. I think that's the first try was... So from a line break, Rico Ioane broke through clean. I think he threw to Narawai and he held onto the ball, clean ruck, straight into structure. Forwards adding the little tip on. I think that's when Scott Barrett got a half break and offload to Coles, and Dane Coles scores. First try. It just personifies All Blacks rugby. I think that's the right word. I think I said that right. Just it's great. It's great to see. Ironi Narawai scored on his on debut as well. All Blacks love picking these guys just out of nowhere, man. You might think 1 year, who's gonna come in Julian Sevilla's place? Next guy comes in. Who's gonna come in Severisa's place? Next guy comes in. Like, it's just a conveyor belt of quality players. Definitely at the standard of test level Narrow-Eye. Always getting in. Didn't have much to do in the first half, but scored a great try in the second half. And just clinical, man. Popping up in all the right places. Sam Cane said before the game that collisions were going to win this game or impact the game heavily. And the All Blacks fucking dominated collisions, pal. Oh, man, just the ruck efficiency as well. Just clinical. Every player goes to ground. Ball is placed back nicely. That first person in there, such an effective cleaner. And can we just I'm just going to take a minute quickly, or maybe a podcast minute, so like 10 seconds, for Aaron Smith's pass. Okay. How good is Aaron Smith's pass? Oh, it's beautiful. I might clip this up and just have him passing. Just flicks it, and he doesn't even. I think he watches it while he runs as well, because I'm pretty sure every time he flicks that ball out, he just goes, that's beautiful, man. Or flicks it, that's sexy. Flicks it, I reckon he says that every time Aaron Smith passes the ball, he just goes, watching his ball float perfectly into whoever that front runner is, right in the breadbasket. All Blacks also so good at absorbing pressure on defense and turning that into attack. I think they did that, and down the side, the Barrett brothers went a little bit of interplay backyard stuff with Geordie Barrett going over. I think Geordie Barrett at 12 is it. I think he's going to stay. I think he's going to stay there. It might have been a bit of an experiment. Man, that guy, just his skill set at 12, he can crash the ball if he needs to. He has the little tip on, he has the out the back ball, he has the little chip. That whole first off, he was crashing the ball or having the little tip on or just hitting it up. I reckon he's half South African. Just close your eyes and run straight, boy. And then in the second half, same move, but then sleight of hand, little pass behind to D-Mac. Damien McKenzie strolled through and Bowden Barrett scored in the corner. Again, All Blacks, simple, basic stuff, executed really well. And it shows. It shows. Then... yeah, Rico Ioane, great at third. Love him at third. I love that pairing of Geordie Barrett and Rico Ioane. He scored a nice try to the late movement just before you catch the ball. You're either going in or you're beating your defender on the outside. Beautiful. It's just lovely to watch, man. I don't know if you can hear that I'm a rugby nerd. Like, these are little things that I watch. I don't know if anyone else sees that stuff, but... it's great to see, man. That's just strong in contact and those hips, baby. I think Shakira is part of his playlist. That my hips don't lie. Is it Shakira? Yeah, it's Shakira. That's part of his pre-match playlist for sure, Rico, because his hips don't lie in the tackle, baby. He's in and away all day. I don't know much about scrums, but man, the ABs put the Los Pumas under pressure. Very, very strong there. Like I said again, Jordie Barrett at 12 is so dangerous. I loved how seamlessly D-Mac can swap between 10 and 15. When Richie Mwanga came on, Damian McKenzie moved to fullback, and he's just so lightning. There has to be a spot for him in the team. I know Will Jordan still needs to come in. I love Will Jordan at fullback because he's an out-and-out fullback. I would honestly put him in Caleb Clark's place, I reckon. Keep Narrawai. Love Narrawai there. He's a game breaker. Imagine that. Narrawai, D-Mac? Would you go D-Mac? Yeah, I would go D-Mac at 10. I mean, fullback, Narrawai one wing, and Will Jordan on the other wing. Oh, that's scary, man. That is very, very scary. Artie Sevilla, ever present. Just a workhorse, man. You talk about donkey work, but then also doing the flashy stuff. Artie Sevilla. There was talk of, I think Jeff Wilson and Morgan Tiranui talked about him coming off the bench, or you need to pick more physical guy. Man, Artie Sevilla is as physical as it comes. Try tackling one-on-one. Again, I haven't done it, but from watching, no one can tackle him one-on-one. There's always 3 or 4 guys trying to tackle him. Sam Cane, captain's knock, man, just strong, just always in the game, making big tackles, being a nuisance at the rock. Josh Lord had a great game as well, and Scott Barrett's just all over. Guys are just all over the park. We'll jump over to Argentina quick because I've been rambling on here for a bit. Line speed in the first 10 minutes was insane. There was a charge down in the first minute, and they almost scored. And then just after the All Blacks scored their first try, that just went to they lost their way a bit there because, man, they were in their faces those first few phases, and it was working. But it's, again, trying to keep up with that for the full 80, and they couldn't. In that first half, they were buggered. I think, on the other hand, where I said the super South African teams being in Europe has helped them, I think Jaguares not being in the Super Rugby has been a very bad, to the Argentinians' detriment because of the continuity that those players had while they were playing. Because they had like 80% of the Argentinian side was playing for Jaguares or the Jags in the Super Rugby. And I spoke before about continuity or that camaraderie you have off the field and how strong that team, that brotherhood you build with when you're playing with players or teammates for such a long time. You can't coach that stuff, man. And I think that shows here with the Argentinian side, where most of them are all scattered now throughout Europe. Again, I mean, most teams are, most countries don't have 80% of their team playing for one club. But I do think, because this is the first year that we've seen, is it Argentina without the Jags in the Super? No, I think it's a couple of years. But I definitely think it's had a role to play negatively for the Argentinian side, because it didn't look like there's no continuity at all on attack. Very one out, very, you go this way or I'll go that way. Just that's definitely what it seemed like. No patience as well, close to the line. There's a couple times they got there in the first and second half, and forwards were overrunning the 9. Poor option taking from the 10 or the forwards, and that just shows the continuity of being playing together, knowing each other, knowing the timing of each other, and that will come for sure. That's Argentina, a tough team, man, but they got absolutely schooled on Sunday morning, or Saturday there, but Sunday morning here. When they did start changing up their attack a bit, so forward there was more options for the 10, more options for the 9. They did make a few line breaks, and they were bending the line back a bit. But like I said about the All Blacks attack, their defense was just as good, man. Just clinical, making good tackles, always nuisance at the ruck. That's one thing about the ABs, man. It's very clinical at the ruck time when they're defending. There's always one person just irritating, trying to get to the 9, trying to get through with their feet in, just being a nuisance at the ruck. So when you're attacking, you have to commit players there, otherwise you're going to get scrappy ball. What else was there? Yeah, so that was what I said. When the Pumas forwards are definitely their strength, but can also be their weakness. Like I said, when they're going forward, when they've got a little bit of variety around their attack, it looks great. But then too, when they're too hasty, overrunning the ball or trying to overplay their hand, it just goes out the window as well. I feel like they kick the ball too often. You don't want to be kicking the ball to All Blacks, man, especially if it's shit kicks. You don't want to be kicking the ball out, or at least having it kicking where you can contest. Otherwise, All Blacks are going to run rampant, and that's what happened. Will say, though, that Argentina did have the last say with Karevi scoring. Good on him, man. Now, I feel like he's been playing for 100 years. So he's done well there. Man, there's just all roads lead to Auckland for All Blacks versus the Springboks. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a massive game. And then following that will be the Aussies versus Argentina in Sydney, which I do think will be a good game as well, because both teams were beaten by a similar margin. So we'll see how they link up. I think that's it, guys. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like, subscribe, all that cool stuff. Share it on your Instagram. Tag us at TUPP_rugby. Tell your friends, man. I'm gonna try and do this. I'm obviously going to get a bit better. I'll be getting guests on to host with me for these match reviews and previews, so you don't just hear my voice the whole time. But this is the first one, and let me know what you guys think. And we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.